Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Nick, and this is Corvette Modified. I'm coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, and it's starting to cool down here. It's in the low 90s, so by the time I don't have any projects left, it'll probably be really nice, like in the 70s, low 80s would be my guess. On this week's episode, I'm going to be installing a Atoto A6 10.1 inch double din unit into my Corvette C5. And I'm doing this because I want more features, and I want a better screen, and I want a clearer screen. So I currently am running a Sony AX200. Sound has been really good. It does have Android Auto. The problem with it is you can barely see the screen during the day. And that's a pretty common problem with a lot of the Pioneer, Alpine, Kenwood, JVC decks that I've seen some of my friends running. They had the same complaint. So there's not a lot of point if you're running a double din if you're just using it for the sound, is kind of where I've been feeling. And did the research on the Atoto, and it's gotten really good reviews from Amazon. So I figured, given how much, how rich the features it has on it are, it was worth the risk to give it a shot, see how it does, and then turn around and flip my Sony and recoup almost all the costs that I spent on the Atoto. So with that in mind, let's open this thing up. Okay. So, gotcha. So here's the pigtail, and it has a locking tab here. So I'm assuming you plug this pigtail in. If you need to pull the screen, you hold this guy in and you pull the screen out. So it should be pretty well locked in there. And then it has the volume knob. It feels really solid. And USB on the front. It's got a reset button on the front, microphone on the front, SD port, and an aux cable. I'm going to put this guy back in. Keep it protected. And then on the back, got a whole bunch of ports. So you got Wi-Fi, GPS, radio, USBs, and then I'm running an amplifier. So the wiring on the harness should be fairly easy. And then I'm going to be using RCAs for the front right, front left, rear left, and then going to be using one of the subwoofers, a backup camera port, and a front camera port. So just show you everything here. And the length, so that was a big concern. On my car, I was very concerned about the length of the unit, because with my current head unit, it's 165 millimeters, and then with the RCAs sticking out the back, it takes up about another 1.5 inches, and it barely hits my firewall. So the current deck I have is a Sony AX200, and it protrudes out past my dash, and this unit is 140 millimeters from the very frontmost of the face to the heat fins on the back. And if you're not counting that, if you're just counting to this edge, it's 135 millimeters. And as far as the width of this guy goes, it is, oops, I just want to use the right unit of measure. It's 170 millimeters wide, 95 for the innermost piece. For the outermost piece, it is 98 by, it's like 178. As far as the screen goes, I'm gonna try and be extra careful with this. Sometimes these screens, they are so fragile, you look at them wrong and they get a scratch on them. Hoping that's not the case with this. Right. It's a massive screen, I can tell you that. So here is the back, and there's where that locking tab goes into. Not sure how it moves side to side, but this thing is massive. I'm going to take a couple of quick measurements. Measurement number 1 is that it's 261 millimeters. And it's like 156 tall. And then as far as depth goes, I think it's about 55 millimeters from this portion right here to the very frontmost portion of the screen. And then I'm going to double check, make sure I have all the hardware that came with it. So this looks like the Wi-Fi cable, microphone, GPS, USBs, mounting brackets for the side, and then the wiring harness. Lastly, a diagram showing how to do the installation in several different languages. Alright, so at this point I am going to bring this into the car and try and get it mounted up before doing any wiring. The tools you're going to need for this job are pictured below. This one is optional, but it's just an electric version of my 1/4-inch ratchet. Since I have it, I'm going to use it, but you can totally get by pulling this dash panel piece here with just the tools that I had listed. You're going to need a 10mm socket, a 7mm socket, and a Torx T15 socket. Those will pull all the bolts that hold this dash piece in place. And in order to access a couple of those bolts, you're going to need to use a trim removal tool. You can use a tiny flathead screwdriver, but if you slip, there's a risk you're going to score your dash. So the plastic's a lot more forgiving than a screwdriver. So I recommend picking a set of those up if you don't have them. Also, Phillips screwdriver is going to be needed. And I always make sure to have my magnet stick ready in the event that I drop a bolt, which seems to happen when you're in a rush. And then I also make sure to have zip ties when I'm dealing with wires to tidy things up, snips to cut those zip ties. And then lastly, you'll need wire strippers, and I recommend having some wire connectors to attach the wiring harness for the deck to the wiring harness that I purchased previously for my, it's a PAC ROEM unit, I believe, for an amplified stereo in the Corvette C5. I need to pull my old deck out, and I'm going to actually pull my climate control out too. And if you haven't seen it, this is part of the Metra kit relocation of the climate control. And you had to drill a couple of holes to tap some screws, or some screw holes. There's a little peg. On the climate control that slides in, and you can see my rat's nest that I have down here from all the stuff I have going on, gauges and cutouts, USB, and all other types of junk. And I got a fumble. At least it was easy to find. Alrighty, that can come out. And that is for my sub. Purple is for sub. And it doesn't say which is which. So I have to figure it out when I plug in the new deck. And this guy here goes to my backup camera. Pull that out, and this goes to my microphone. And lastly, I had a USB extender. And that's it. And I had to, if you're not familiar, the stock unit has a metal tray that goes back here, and it actually even takes away more of your space if you're running an aftermarket deck. So it was riveted in, and part of the instructions for the Metra kit was to drill that out and then pull the metal tray out. Oh man. These are two accessories I'm going to be mounting in the car. One is a steering wheel controller, and the other is a front-facing camera. It gets mounted to the dash. Nothing special about them. I need to add a wire connector, and I've done this for quite a few, as you can already see. If you're not familiar with adding wire connectors, there's really nothing to it. Figure out the right gauge on the snippers, and on this harness it looks like it's probably 16-ish, and I'd already had a connector on here and it didn't stay on, didn't do a good enough job. So I'm gonna just bite onto it. Oops, there's one shorter. And that's really it. Once you strip the outside, you put a connector on. Make sure you get into where some of the outer insulation is in this middle section here. You're going to crimp on to get extra bite, and you squeeze these guys together as tight as you can. Make sure that the pin is centered, and if not, pry it with a screwdriver, and you're golden. This is my interior currently. So I have the Wi-Fi antenna. It's shorter than the rest of some of the wires, but I'm going to be mounting it somewhere around here. I have everything tucked into my A-pillar. My car, to remove the A-pillar, I just came in from the side, took a pry tool, jarred it loose a little bit, and then you just pull on it and pull it toward you and up toward the roof, and move on. So there's a little tab down by the dash, so that's why you got to pull up and out, because you don't want to get caught and snap it off when you're pulling out your A-pillar. But I also have my dash cam and my GPS, and then I have everything running through the side. I pulled this, there's a tiny little plastic panel that's probably in the trunk or something, that you can pry out with your hands, and then you can run the wires underneath the steering wheel, which I have many, and also lowered the kick panel a little bit. It just comes across, and then yeah, I know it's a rat's nest. I'm gonna zip tie and clean these things up, but basically get all the wires back out here, and I'm gonna plug them into the back of the deck, and I will test it, make sure that it works, and if it works, then I can go ahead and tidy everything up and stick these to the windshield after I clean the spot I'm gonna mount them with rubbing alcohol. I got my helper here, and we just got the deck in and tested everything. Everything works. Sound is really good. It's a very big screen. So next up, we're going to be putting the dash back together. I have a switch down here for my cutout that I have mounted in the cigarette hole on my dash piece. So I have to put that nut in. The new dash piece does not utilize this old screw hole, so if you're running a, I don't know if the double D mods one retains that, but the Metra bezel that I have over here does not. So it's pretty straightforward. If you just put the dash piece, snake it back into place. You got the one screw that goes down here. You got another one that goes up for the temperature, and then you have these two nuts that go on these studs here, and then the two nuts that go in the, it's hard to see, in the armrest, and you can't see them because I don't have it lined up. And that's it. Wanted to show how quickly the Atoto fires up from the time that I switch the key to the on position till the time it's ready to go. And that's how it fires up. The UI is surprisingly very good. I like that it has the screen brightness ready to roll, tethered to the bottom of the screen, so you can toggle between brightest or darkest or somewhere in between. And then also it has the EQ. There's like 9 different EQs available, and I've customized flat, which is also nice. I'm running an amplifier in my car, and this deck has 4-volt pre-out, so the sound is very good. You know, shockingly good for the price of the unit. The remote I really like. It's got a nice feel to it. Clicks when you roll it, and then in terms of using the mic, navigate to ice den, and there you go. And that's my front camera. So that's pretty much it. And then you can see up here I got my GPS mounted, got my front camera mounted here, and then I put my Wi-Fi at the very top of the windshield. From a feature standpoint, that's pretty much all I'm going to go over for this video. And I don't know what else you need to know. It's like there's a whole bunch of apps available for you to download from the Play Store that are compatible with this version of Android. Knee-jerk reaction is that this deck is awesome. For the money, you're not going to find anything that is comparable to it. And I posted on my Instagram after getting this deck installed, and my Instagram is Corvette_modified, and I'm also on Facebook, posted there. And from the naysayers, the initial criticism, concern about this deck and Android decks as a whole is you're going to take a dip in sound quality. And I'm going to let you know that there's no way I would tolerate a significant dip in sound quality, given that my speakers I'm running in this car are Focal components. They're not cheap, and they sound great. They sound fantastic with this deck. I'm also running the amplifier though, so that's kind of the thing. It's like if you have 4-volt pre-outs coming from the deck, you have a good amp running good speakers, this thing is going to do exactly what you need. I can't speak for running your stock speakers or running speakers directly from the deck. I kind of feel like if you're coming to this deck, you're probably not looking at running a stock setup. Definitely if you're in a Corvette C5, I would have a hard time believing you've gone through the trouble putting in a double din just to run your stock speakers. So, but if you are, I can't speak for that. All I can speak for is running the amplified setup, and so far it's very good. I am going to put this through its paces. I live in Phoenix. It gets very hot here. Big concern for me is how's it going to hold up during the heat. So I am going to come back, I don't know, a few months down the road and chime back in with some long-term results on running this deck. But definitely gets a thumbs up from me right now. And that's going to do it for today's episode. I would appreciate if you would also give this episode thumbs up, like in the bottom corner of this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a lot more content coming. The next big thing that's coming is this hood is going to be gone. So I ordered a new hood. I ordered it about 3 weeks ago. Not sure when it's going to get here, but when it does, there's going to be another video coming. In the interim, I don't really have anything planned on the car, so it might be a little bit of silence for a while, but rest assured, there will be some more stuff coming. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.